Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Bookcast. I am D.L. White, Atlanta-based author of romantic fiction featuring Black men and women. You can find my books online at booksbydlwhite.com/books. Please do go forth there and purchase the books I speak about. It is once again Friday afternoon. I am once again slacking. It is 1:02 p.m. My day has ground to an absolute halt, and I thought, hey, plug up the microphone and maybe let's do up a podcast episode because I've been thinking about a couple things and it's probably going to be a bit of a ramble, so buckle up, honey. I want to talk about a couple of things in today's episode. I mentioned on Instagram that I might talk a little bit about beta readers, how to find a beta reader, what to look for in a beta reader, and what to ask your beta readers to get the information that you need from them. I might need to flesh that out a little more, but I do have some initial thoughts, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. I'm cautious about putting myself up as any kind of expert of anything because I don't know everything. I only know what I know, so I'm always going to be speaking as if it's me giving advice to me about a thing. The other thing I wanted to chat about is something I've been thinking about for a long while, and an author friend of mine has just recently become vocal about going through the same thing about you get to this point where you've been writing for a while and publishing for a while, and you get caught up in the business of being an author and you lose the joy of writing. And that's something I've really been thinking about as I'm still digging myself out of burnout and trying to find my joy in writing and really getting back to liking putting words on the page. I don't so much enjoy that. So those are two things I wanted to talk about today. So we will dig in. We are lulled by the sound of the fan on my laptop, the rattling of the heater above my head, and my neighbor's muffled car, none of which I can do anything about. But this is a free podcast, so we get what we get. So I want to talk super, super briefly about beta readers. I have always used betas. Even when I wrote fan fiction, I have had a beta reader, and to be honest, they have almost always come to me. They have always been people that really liked reading my words and were willing to swim through the muck and a little bit of mess to bring out the best message. They have never been people that are super critical of the work. They are people that know and understand my voice, really like what I have to say, and want to be a part of the process that helps me put out good work. So back when I was a fan fiction writer, for those who don't know, I don't know how because I talk about this incessantly. I was a fan fiction writer. I'm still a fan fiction writer. I own and operate the NSYNC fiction fan fiction website, and we host thousands of stories about your favorite sparkly boy band. It is full of sparkly boy band goodness. I do own and operate that fan fiction archive, and I am a writer there. I write under Miss M. I have, I think 9 stories there or something like that. I've been writing since 2008, and, when I first started writing, it was just me. I was reading stories, and they sounded fun, and the stories kind of started writing themselves in my head. I spoke a little about this when I was on with Reese Ryan, the story behind the story, on YouTube. I go vastly into my fan fiction past on that episode, but I would find stories and reading them, and there are some fan fiction writers that could write rings around your favorite traditionally published author. They're just that good. They're so good. And I was just enamored with these stories, and as I'm reading them, other stories start writing themselves in my head. And so I had started writing in my live journal, and someone suggested, hey, you should put your stories up at the fanfic archive. And I was like, what's a fanfic archive? So they introduced me to the Instinct Fiction archive, and it is just where writers post their episodic stories. It's like Kindle Vella, but not. So I put my first story up. It was called, I think my first story was called Let's Start Over. It was about like a pop princess, like a Avril Lavigne, Kelly Clarkson. I hate you. I want to stomp your heart with my boot. Let's kiss kind of rock princess. And she's having trouble recording her next album. It's her third album, and she's in a slump, and her record label assigns her to work with a producer, and this producer just happens to be this guy that used to be in a boy band called NSYNC, and she does not want to work with this producer because she doesn't want any of that cotton candy, bubblegum, pop mess mucking up her black lipstick, red hair, leather vibe. So she fights it for a long time, and my main character, who I modeled after J.C. Chasez, one of my faves, one of the most beautiful voices in music ever, is her producer, and he is super calm, cool, collected, like, look, I know how you feel, I know the deal, I know how to play this game. If you want your third album to come out, your label says this is what has to happen, and I'm the guy that's supposed to get you there. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. So, wrote the story. I don't remember if I had finished it, but I did put it up, and I was super fantastically nervous about it. Just really, really nervous. So nervous that I got up at 3 a.m. and I deleted that story after I had posted it. I got so many messages the next day. Where's that story? I was in the middle of reading it. It was so good. Can you put it back up? I really want to finish it. And one of the people, I want to say the first person that reached out to me was, I'm not going to put people on blast on this podcast unless they give me permission, but we'll call her V, reached out to me. And she said, hey, if you need a beta, I'm available. You know, I really like your work. If you want to, send it through somebody to, make it sure it's cool. And I had never worked with a beta before, but I was like, cool. All right. However that works. So I did end up putting the story back up, and V and I started working together. That was like maybe 08, 09. It's been a minute. We are still friends. We talk at least every other day. And she's still my fanfic beta. I just haven't written fanfic in a minute because I'm busy writing books that I can sell for money. So I started working with a beta and learning through doing, as you do, what to expect from a really good beta. The first thing, as I said before, is it should be a person that likes your work. It should be a person that knows your voice, hears your voice when they read your work, but they also have an eye and an ear open to how it could be better, what could be more polished, what could be more succinct, what's kind of dragging your story down, what slows down the reader, what takes the reader out, but also like what's really good. I like how you wrote this here because I can hear him say this, in my head. I like the story that you wrote about him being on a motorcycle. I can see him, riding down the street in his motorcycle. I can hear him say that to her. Or also, especially when you're working with fan fiction, the characters are fictional, but they're based on real people. So the fans have to recognize that person when they read that piece of work. And so if I write something that it doesn't seem like JC would say that, she's going to point that out. I don't think he would say this. He would say that. He always says this when he means that. He uses these words. He talks in this cadence. And those are things that we try to pick up from watching interviews and watching videos and, reading interviews and, kind of really digging into that character as a public persona, because that public persona is like a character that they put on for the public. And transferring that to paper for your reader. Reader has to be able to pick that up. It has to be believable. It has to keep them in the story. They have to really like it. And your beta is there to help with that. A beta is not an editor, but I'll say that a beta reader is part of the developmental edit process. A really good beta reader will tell you what is good, what brought them in, what took them out, what was really slow. Even like if your ending just doesn't work, I am not looking for my beta to rewrite my stories. I don't look for my beta to catch my typos, although I do certainly appreciate it, because my number one habit is dropping words and using the wrong word for a sentence like, I don't know, sometimes I'll write here instead of hair, or like homonyms, like GROWN instead of GROAN. Spell check's not going to catch that. It still says grown, but it's the absolute wrong word for that sentence. Those are things someone with a very detailed eye are going to catch. What I don't want from a beta is somebody that's going to read it with minimal comments. I liked it. It's good. Like, I know it's good. I wouldn't have sent it to you if it wasn't ready for other eyes to read. I don't send rough drafts. There are very few people that read my words raw. I do not use alpha readers. Those are people that read it raw and react like in the moment, because I write in layers. I need to write it and think about it and then come back and layer and come back and layer and come back and layer until, I have polished and layered and it looks and sounds like I want it to look and sound, and then it's ready for other eyes. Nobody sees it before I'm ready for anybody to see it. So if I send it to you, I think it's good, but it needs polish. Tell me, in your opinion, what needs polish. What I don't need from a beta reader is, it's good. I know. Yes, honey, I know. I know. That's why I sent it to you. What else do you have for me? If you don't have useful advice for an author when you are reading a story, you're not a beta reader. You don't have to be a beta reader. You can just be a reader. If you're reading a story and you're like, oh, she could have done this, and oh, she could have added that, and I just feel like this part is, or she should move this to up here, it would really have more impact in the story, you might be a beta reader. Another thing that I don't need from betas is brutality. I saw someone say in a TikTok comment that they like being a beta because they try to be as brutal as possible. And sweetheart, honey doll, baby pie, no. Please don't do this to authors. Because the beta-author relationship is not antagonistic. It is not a battle. It should not include violence. You should not be mean to your author. You are there to help. You are part of the team. If I had somebody on my team that was as antagonistic as possible to me and then claimed that they were there to help me, I would ask to be on a different team. No. Please don't be as brutal as possible. And I know people want to talk about brutal honesty, and quite frankly, I think people are more interested in being brutal than they are in being honest, because you can be honest without being a total butt. You can be honest without being tactless. You can be honest without being mean. It's going to hurt my feelings just as much if you nicely say, this doesn't work, as if you add some brutality to it. Now, does that person probably mean brutality as in from the rooter to the tutor? I'm going to look at and I'm going to analyze every scene, every syllable, every nuance, every step, all your arcs, all your beats. Do they mean they want to be as brutally honest as possible in that measure? Yes, I would like that from a beta. It don't need to be that deep, but I would like that. If you are all deep up into it, I would like that. So the beta that I use right now is an avid, did I say avid? Avid reader of romance. She reads a lot and she reads widely. And when I say the quality of my work has improved since I started working with her, I'm not joking. When I send her a book, I get back a document that says, here's my first impressions. Here's what I think of the hero. Here's what I think of the heroine. Here are some things that kind of don't work. She'll point out typos and such, wrong words here, there, but also she really helps me in character development, in story development, suggestions that might work down to figuring out what kind of cologne Preston is wearing when he gets into the car. Like, that's how vivid I want my writing to be. So if you can picture somebody getting into a car and you can instantly smell, the cologne that they're wearing and Angie remarks on it, like, that's a thing that's important to Preston, that he looks good, that he smells good, that he puts that confident, GQ man facade. So he, of course, wants the reader to recognize that as well. And so those are elements that we really tried to put out in the book. And I created my own law firm in this book, and she helped me craft that law firm. Here's what I think should be on the walls. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe, there are some paintings that are, kind of stacked up against the desk. Like he should have like a collection of this and that, and maybe this. And, she did make a suggestion that Preston and Nate should have been in a frat. And I agree. But I just don't know anything about writing about frats. I was not in a fraternity. I was not in a sorority, and I don't want to research it, which is why I never write a person in a sorority. The closest I'm ever going to come is Evelyn referring to herself being an AKA in Hey Lover. That's as close as I'm going to come to putting somebody in a fraternity or a sorority in one of my books, because for Black people, it's deep, and I'll mess it up. I don't. So anyway. Beta readers. If you have specific questions about where to find betas, how to get betas, what to look for, how to get the best information out of your betas, feel free to shoot them at me. Not saying I'm an expert or anything, but we could bounce around some ideas. I will say that you need to put on your thick skin. You do need to put on your armor. You need to put your big boy, big person pants on, because if you send your work out to someone and ask their opinion of it, you're going to hear it. And there are a lot of things that I would rather hear from my beta pre-publication so I can fix it, or decide that I'm not going to fix it. I say what I say. I'm going to leave it right there. I would rather get that pre-publication than post-publication in my reviews, where other readers can see it and decide if they want to read their book or not based on those comments. I made a decision, I think I had written Beach Thing, where I just wasn't going to read reviews anymore. I don't read them. So feel free to be as wild as you like in those reviews. You don't need to send them to me. I don't need to see them. I do appreciate the ones that are sent to me. Thank you so very much. I kind of skim them for, comments that I, could take into consideration later. But it is not a reader's job to teach me how to be a better writer. It's a reader's job to tell me if they like the book or not. If they don't like the book, I'll be able to tell by the ratings. And then I might have someone say, hey, why don't you go through the reviews and see what the top 5 ick comments are. But I haven't had that experience so far, and I feel like it's because I use a beta reader. I don't release a book if I don't like it. So if I liked it and you didn't, I just feel like that's a you problem. I'm just playing. I do like to write books that I feel like people will enjoy reading. I just have not come upon a situation where I got a low review from a reader and it resulted in me completely changing my style, my voice, how I write a book, how I would write the next book. I do tend to get comments about typos and my earlier books needed an editor, 100% with that. So betas, use them. You need one. You need a beta. You need an editor. Anything that you can do to bring other voices and opinions in to your work to make it better, you need it. And if you are not the type of person that can take criticism, I'd say you're probably not the type of person to be releasing your work widely, asking people to pay money and expecting people to review it so that other people can read it and offer their opinion on it. You got to be ready. You have to be ready to hear negative opinions. You got to be ready to hear something other than, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It's so great. I love it. It's awesome. I do like hearing that, but I also want to know how it can improve. And I'll also say that I am looking for that information from people that I work with closely pre-publication to give me those impressions and not random people off the street. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I should email her and just let her know all 56 issues I have with her book, don't do that. Don't do that. Put it in your review and move on with your life. It's a book. It's a book. I promise it means more to me than it does to you. It's a book. Put it in your review, move on with your life, or become a beta reader. Those are the two options. So those are my thoughts on beta reading, using a beta. If you are a beta, those are my thoughts on being a better beta. Really dig in. Don't be brutal. Do be honest and share, your thoughts. I like to do, if I do a beta read, I like to do 2 reads. The first read is just, I'm so excited to be reading new work. The first read is like just a really, I'm so excited read. And then the second read, because I'm familiar with the work, is a more critical eye because I know what I'm going to see now. And then that's when I actually start, I get out my pen and my highlighter and I start, really looking at it and not trying to be critical, not looking for issues, but if something pops out at me, I'll definitely point it out. And I always tell people, if you ask me to beta, expect to see a lot of red because I'm going to have a lot of thoughts. Don't be scared. I'm just vocal. And those are the kind of comments that I want from people who read me, who claim to want to see me release better books. Dig in, be vocal with your comments, be honest, stem to stern, rooter to tutor, get all up in it, and also turn that in on time because your author is waiting for your thoughts and your feelings so that they can make their edits and move on with their work. Don't hold on to it forever. Be honest with your time commitment. If you don't have time, let that author know so that they can send it to someone else. Don't hold up the process. So when you get it, confirm that you got it. Let them know when they're about to get it back. So I do like to reach out to my beta and let them know, hey, I got something cooking, estimated to be done at X time. Are you going to be available to beta read? Just so that I am respectful of her time, of their time, actually, since I use a couple. Just being respectful of their time, asking if they have time to take a look at your document, give it a run through. Does anything stand out to you, et cetera, and so on. So again, shoot me your questions if you have anything specific about beta readers, but it's not rocket science. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was there's an author that I have been following for some time, actually. I knew her before she even wrote her debut, and I've been just following her this whole time. I think she has like 9 books out, 6 books out. I have lost count. I would have to look it up. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Ronnie Lauren. She just had a new book out called Good Girl Fail. It's her first independent release. So that's fun. And she's getting back to her roots in erotic romance, which is also fun. And it's been really interesting watching her dip back. Like a lot of authors want to evolve and move forward, and they never look in the rearview mirror. They never look back. You know what I'm saying? Never look backwards. They never look back. They're just always looking forward, and seeing Ronnie return to erotic romance reminds me of a time, well, returning because it was fun. It was fun to write that and fun to anticipate, releasing something titillating and, something new that readers would be interested in. And it reminds me of when I first started writing, and I would run home from work and pull out my laptop and open LiveJournal and bang out like 2,000 words and not even think about anybody looking at it. I was just writing because I had these stories in my head and I wanted to get them out. And one of the things that I was worried about when I first started writing was losing my passion for being a writer. I don't think I've lost my passion for being a writer, but I definitely don't write for fun or for pleasure, mostly because I think in novels now. I don't think in short stories. I don't think in vignettes. I think in novels. And the work of putting together characters and backstories and settings takes precedence over having fun writing that book. And I don't start having fun until the story is laid down and I have a rough draft, and now I can go back through it and rewrite and polish and layer and make it the way that it seems to play out in my mind. It's just so much work, and I dread the work of writing. I dread the putting together characters, and it's not that it's hard work, it's so thinky. It's very, very thinky. Once I get started, it doesn't leave me alone. Apologies for that pause. It is the middle of the workday. It is 1:31 p.m. on a Friday, so I have to pause for actual work. I really thought this would be like a super quick episode, but I was just, shoot out. And here we are at 28 minutes, and I'm rambling. Anyhow, Ronnie posted today on her new Substack called The Nourished Writer. One of the reasons I started following Ronnie was because she was chronicling her journey to being a published writer and getting an agent and releasing her first book, and she would blog it every step of the way, and she always, had these useful tips for writers, and this is what I learned about deep POV, and this is what I learned about editing, and this is what I learned about book publishing, and she has always been a font of knowledge, and over the years it's been so much book writing and so much grind and so much deadline and not so much enjoying writing and reading and sharing that with other authors. So she started a new Substack all about coming back, on getting back to the stuff that she used to enjoy, which is something I think about often. I think often about that time when I was just writing for me and I didn't even imagine somebody else looking at it. Her first post is called She Used to Be Mine. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I think you should look it up. It's on Substack by Ronnie Lauren. It's called The Nourished Writer. I'll try to link it. But if you're an author, you should definitely read it, particularly if you've been battling burnout like I have. But there's a part in here that really resonated with me. Like I had goosebumps, and it's something that I wanted to ruminate on in this podcast. She says, throughout life, we have many different versions of ourselves. Thank God, because how boring would that be otherwise? Evolving as a person is good. We learn, we grow, we change, but sometimes in that process, we also lose pieces of ourselves that we might miss later on. Over the last few years, writing has been a grind for me. There have been moments of joy in it. There have been good days where I hit flow. I still love hearing from readers when they've enjoyed something I've written, but overall, a lot of the fun of creating has been sucked out by the business of being an author and my own high-strung achiever personality. Worrying about deadlines, what's right for the market, how to sell books in an increasingly gutted marketplace, how to keep up with authors who can put out a book once a month. Spoiler alert, I will never be able to keep up with that. Neither will I. I can just barely do a book a year. How to best use the ever-changing social media platforms, publishing platforms, etc. It's put me in burnout mode a number of times, and last February, almost a year to the day actually, I hit the wall and decided I needed to take a sabbatical. And I had goosebumps because that has been, quite honestly, the last 2 years of my life. I have spoken candidly about how 2020 was a lot, and I really burnt myself out just trying to do everything all at once. 2021 and 2022, I did not release any work. I didn't write anything. I didn't finish anything. I won't say I didn't write anything. I definitely tried to plug away at some projects, but I didn't finish anything, and I almost didn't make it out of 2022 without a new work. So I just am at the point where I need to figure out what it's going to take to get me back to finding joy in writing. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be all about, why don't you open up a journal and just write for yourself and not have anybody look at it? Because by now, I like having other eyes on my work, and I like hearing how people like my work. It's not like I need validation, but I already know I like it. I mean, nothing leaves my computer until I like it. I think it is the work of writing that tends to get me down. It is the creation of books, the creation of characters. It's making sure that things are said beautifully and yet succinctly and yet clearly, every single word, every single page, every single chapter. It's so much. So I'm looking forward to this series from Ronnie. It has really sparked a lot of thought. I also have been doing a lot of reading and watching Becca Syme's Better Faster channel on YouTube. She's had a couple of quick cast episodes on burnout. I think she had a whole series of burnout. She wrote a book called Writer, Are You in Burnout? And I absolutely am trying to recover from burnout. It's rough. And the number of authors that are also just absolutely burnt out is amazing to me. We have all just pushed ourselves to the limit in the last couple of years, just really trying to be there, trying to be out there, trying to make use of this quote unquote downtime that we have, and not really taking the time to refill that well, not really taking that time to fulfill ourselves. Like, I really try with reading. That's why I read so many books. I read a lot. I watch a lot of, documentaries and stuff, because those are things I enjoy. That fills my well. That fills my brain. But I just don't have, I don't have the imagination that I used to have. I don't dream up stories the way I used to. I don't have that font of endless stories that I used to have. And I don't honestly know that I used to be a person that had a ton of ideas, but I also think some of it is I was writing fan fiction where they're almost guaranteed to like your story. So I do miss, writing and knowing that I'm going to see accolades and not criticism. So, that all probably has something to do with it as well. Anyhow, those are thoughts I'm thinking on, stuff I might ruminate on in future episodes. things that I am working through as a person, as a writer. Day job has a whole lot to do with my attitude and how I feel and how I approach my work. My job is great, but requires a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And when it comes down to writing fiction, I just don't have it. I just don't have it to give. And trying to make peace with that and be okay with that is hard. It's hard when you're looking at what's happening around you. Like, not even comparing myself to people, because I could not write like other people. I could not write as fast as other people, but I also can't even keep up. I can't even keep up. So, like I said before, if I could quit, I would. But I can't, because these people in my head, they just yammer nonstop until I write it down. So I have to keep writing it down. And to me, writing it down is kind of useless unless someone's going to look at it. So I'm still working with that point of view. Maybe nobody has to look at it. Maybe it is just for me. But, then I'm like, I can write in my head for me. So, those are my thoughts. Thinky thoughts. This has been the Books by D.L. White Bookcast, episode 3. Well, season 3, episode 3, I think. I welcome any questions that you might have. I want to say I welcome comments, but I don't. You guys know me. I'm hardly ever serious. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me. I'm everywhere. Or you can hit me at email. It's authordl@booksbydlwhite.com. You can buy any of my books at booksbydlwhite.com/books. I am also at your favorite retailer in ebook. Select titles are available in print and audio, and you are also welcome to buy them direct from me at my store. It's payhip.com/booksbydlwhite. I so appreciate your time and your ears and your understanding and your care. All the good comments, all the, I don't know about this. All those comments too, I appreciate them. Hope you have a fantastic weekend and an even better week, and we'll talk to you soon.